Gang, welcome back. What's good? I'm annoying you with this, but it's a book that's helped me. It's a book that will help you to deal with standing. So we're gonna be maybe moving around, maybe doing something. All right, let's get into it. Day 167. Sacrifice changes everything. In February 1942, Singapore fell to the invading Japanese army. A group of Scottish soldiers was taken into captivity. Conditions were so brutal and their captors so cruel that all camaraderie between the soldiers broke down. In an account from prisoner of war Ernest Gordon, a commander in the Scottish infantry, a work party was returning to camp. At the first checkpoint, the shovels were counted and one was found to be missing. The officer in charge demanded the missing shovel to be produced. No one came forward. The officer raged. Still nothing. He threatened to shoot them all if the culprit didn't confess. Calmly, one soldier stepped forward. I did it, he said. The officer beat him to death with the butt of his rifle. It's crazy. At the next checkpoint, where the shovels were counted again, the full number was found present. The previous guard had miscounted. The story spread like wildfire among the prisoners. That soldier's extraordinary act of sacrifice changed everything. Attitudes altered overnight. The prisoners stopped their infighting and instead began caring for one another, sharing their meager resources, helping each other endure the horrific situation. True heroism changes us all for the better. Small or big, it doesn't matter. Every kind sacrifice has a ripple effect. To what extent do you think sacrifice is valued or celebrated in society today? Can you think of a moment when someone else's sacrifice had a profound impact on you? I would say I'm going to critique today's society again and say usually when you sacrifice something, it's either people feel entitled to your sacrifice or people do not value your sacrifice as much just because they feel like they didn't ask for it. Had all the soldiers not been soldiers and not been disciplined people, then they wouldn't have stopped fighting because I'm sure among them there were people who said, but no one asked him to. We could have just asked for a recount and whatnot as it happened on the next checkpoint. But for some people, it's like, okay, if you sacrifice something, they will genuinely notice it and they will genuinely just give you the grace as someone who also sacrifices as well. So I feel like in today's society, especially a society that's been built around entitlement and people feeling like they actually just need stuff done for them and that the world is owed to them, but then they don't owe the world nothing. First, we have a few people who are willing to make the sacrifice for things to actually get better. And then, second, we have people who do not even care about the sacrifice anymore because they're just like, oh, you sacrificed, but we didn't ask for it. When we don't realize that sacrifice and this level of someone being so humble that they are willing to give themselves up just so other people can progress is the greatest act of love that anyone can do. A lot of people sacrifice not only in what they offer physically, but sometimes it's what you offer emotionally, what you offer intellectually, even what you offer just randomly on the street. It could be sacrifice, and sometimes that's the sacrifice that people need to see the way to act better. Some people have sacrificed comfort at a greater level for their people to actually see how they have done it. They have done, I would like to call Jesus acts. Of course, it's not changing the entire world like Jesus did when he came and he sacrificed himself for the sake of our sins. Some people sacrifice comfort. Sometimes you are owed as president or you get in a position of power where you are ruling or you are in charge of a lot of people who would be under you, but instead of choosing to take all the comfort that comes with that position, sometimes you sacrifice some of the comforts, and then when you do sacrifice some of the comforts, you don't just let those efforts go to waste, but you actually make sure they benefit someone else. That's what I always talked about in the other videos where I talk about abundance, that you will always have an abundance in something. It's either an abundance in time, an abundance in money, an abundance in, I don't know, knowledge. Sometimes you just have an abundance in a skill that you have learned over time and some other people haven't. And you sacrifice some of that which you have in abundance, even that which you have in scarcity, you can also sacrifice. Because if all of us make sacrifices for each other, me with my time, you with your skills, someone with their knowledge, someone with their money, we create that ecosystem where not only one person is benefiting, but everyone else is benefiting in the senses at which they are meant to benefit. Some people sacrifice their peace in order for everyone else to have peace. This one soldier sacrificed his life so that everyone else could have life. And his sacrifice went greater than that, such that the people who were actually in prison then stopped fighting and they started sharing and whatnot. So sometimes that sacrifice goes further than what you see. It's not only one person who you give a sacrifice to and they honor that. Having sacrificed yourself will always be a reflection of who you are. And when you make this sacrifice, it ripples on to the next person and the next and the next. Well, there's sometimes when you will figure out that you making sacrifices for people is not really working well with those people, and you'd have to stop making the sacrifices. Because there are some times when people genuinely do not understand you or do not understand the reason why these sacrifices have to be made. And sometimes that's when you have to make a pushback and just honor yourself as well and honor those whose sacrifices will actually make much of a difference to you and who will honor your sacrifice as well. Not saying that every time you feel like you made a sacrifice, then you should feel honored, because you do things, you shine without the needing the to be seen. So be a shining star without the need for anyone to see you, because whether we admire it or not, the sunrise will always be beautiful. So be a sunrise or be a sunset in that sense. Then the second question is, has there been anyone's sacrifice in your life that you have always, that you are grateful for? Well, I cannot stress enough the sacrifice of my parents, my mother, my family, especially because the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the blood of the womb. This is what I believe when we say blood is thicker than water. I feel like I was water. I was related to my family through water first when we got to just be a family, not saying we were forced, but you are born into this world and no one knows what character you're going to form. But I feel where my relationship with all my family has gotten thicker, it's in the blood of the covenant. And whenever a covenant was made in the Bible, with that blood, there was always a sacrifice. So they are the people whose sacrifices I truly honor, because I feel the blood of the covenant with them, and that is thicker than the water of the womb. So even though I have a sister who was born out of the same womb, a mother who gave birth to me, and a father who's always been there taking care of me, I feel like their sacrifices have made a covenant between me and them be greater. And their sacrifices are what's made them my best friends as well. So those are the people I'm just grateful for. When you think about it, whenever a sacrifice is made for you and it's a sacrifice that you honor, it's also a sacrifice that you have to think of as the blood being shed for a covenant to be made, because you have to make a covenant and you have to stick with it. If you're going to stay with me for a bit, I will also go for 168 because it still talks about sacrifice. Sacrifice flies in the face of the idea that our own needs, opportunities, and rights are paramount. Sacrifice is the greatest starting point for building a strong team, whether a family, marriage, company, or sports team. If we start by honoring one another and foregoing our individual interests, we can become something far greater than the sum of our individual parts. In a highly competitive world, self-sacrifice stands out. Canadian sailor Lawrence Lemur was in second place in a race during the 1988 Seoul Olympics when he saw two sailors in trouble. Joseph Chan was too injured to climb back into his boat, and Su Sho He was being swept away in the waves. Joseph abandoned his Olympic dream, rescued both men, and then resumed, finishing 22nd. The Olympic Committee president said, by your sportsmanship, self-sacrifice, and courage, you embody all that is right with the Olympic ideal. Sacrifice flies in the face of the idea that our own needs, opportunities, and rights are paramount. Instead, it says, I am willing to forego my own best interests for the sake of something or someone else. Self sacrifice can change culture for the better and has the power to reorder our lives around what really matters. And the questions that I will leave you with right now, or the questions that I would want you to answer for yourself, because I'm not going to go in the whole video answering everything for you, because then everything is just from my perspective and my own point of view. And that's not fair on both of us. So, can you see ways in which you individually are sacrificing for others or others are sacrificing for you? Because it always goes both ways, right? And in which areas do you struggle most to sacrifice and why do you think this is? That's it, gang. This week's video is done. Doing these one takes, just trying to get all my thoughts and at least do a reflection with you, because I figured this channel is probably my reflection channel. So having one of these channels of reflection is this book is a great way for us to be helping each other. Yep, sacrificing my time today for you, gang. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you have a good week. I hope you keep making good decisions and you do good for yourself and for the people around you. Make the good sacrifice and be the good Samaritan. Cheers.